Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With FishingBooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. FishingBooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to FishingBooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.
It's your league to dominate in EA Sports Madden NFL 27. Powered by the all-new Persona engine, you can build your franchise the way you want. And to really live your entire football journey, get the MVP Bundle. It comes with access to College Football 27, Madden NFL 27, plus deluxe edition rewards in both games. From campus legend to NFL superstar, make your rise with the MVP Bundle. Learn more at EA.com. Rated E for everyone with mild lyrics, user interact, and in-game purchases includes random items.
All right, welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast with Kevin and Chuck. I was thinking I wanted to kind of get back to basics, really focus on some of the basic preps that people really need to be doing, because so much, I mean, one, there's new people who are getting into it and checking out the podcast and seeing different things, but also I feel like every once in a while you need to kind of go back and check your gear, check your stuff, because we get, focused heavy in one area. We end up making certain things a priority, and you just kind of get complacent, I mean, I know like every year, most companies will go back and do like a safety training, or, every once in a while you'll go to a new, class to update your abilities, or they retrain on different things. I feel like you always need to kind of go back. That's part of being prepared, is kind of revisiting the basic core fundamentals. Will end up, kind of, maybe you learn something new. Maybe you just kind of make things stronger, but you also realize where you lose sight of things. I think it's easy to let things get away from us. So I wanted to, I think one of the most basic preps that somebody could do is like a get home bag for your car. And I think that, I mean, everybody, you always kind of have food in your house, some amount. I mean, you're not going to last weeks or whatever unless you take some kind of preparedness action. But I feel like you have something. You either kind of have a gun or something, or you don't. I mean, but most people have some kind of plan for their security in general. But when your car breaks down and you're stuck on the side of the road, especially if it's in a bad situation where you can't call AAA, or, just they're busy with everybody, or the weather's bad, or, who knows. I know I live in the country. If I can get phone service, I ended up calling to see if there was a tow truck available for somebody, and it was like, 3 or 4 hours before somebody could get to you. And even something minimum like that, if you live in a hot climate or a cold climate, can be a real issue. So anyway, having like a basic like 72-hour bag. Now, 72 hours sounds extreme if you live in that nice, like, sheltered world where everything works. But if for whatever reason, you were stranded and stuck out, it's really a good, essential, basic prep. And I just kind of wanted to dig deep about, what's in a good get home bag, what it means, what it should entail. Kevin, you had some ideas, right? Some different categories, things we could kind of put in there, or like, what are the basic needs, I guess? What are the needs that we're trying to meet with a get home bag?
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing, like you were saying, one thing that's important about it is you got to pack it before you need it. You don't want to be running around at the last minute trying to grab whatever you can to get into a bag so you can, or, like you said, you're in your car and you're stuck. You're not going to be able to have access to all this stuff. You want to have this pre-made, set up, stocked, and ready for use, so that you're not running around like an idiot trying to put stuff together at the last minute. And I think the main thing, the main two stuff that you need in your
Did I lose you?
bag,
Right.
the main two things you need are water and food, right? So let's start with water. I know a lot of you guys live in wetter climates, where you can access water that's not necessarily clean. So one of the things that I want to talk about for a minute is the water purification tablets and the filters. Now, there's a lot of filters on the market. Some are designed for like the Life Straw, which is designed just to, single person really,
Yeah.
But there are some of the other filters that are a little higher end that you can actually filter a lot of water pretty quickly. And those are really a lot of those are really impressive how well they work. I've really sucked up some mud through those filters and filtered out some pretty decent water on the other side. They're meant for durability. Sometimes you have to replace filters in there. Some of them, are just, you can clean those filters and reuse them. And that's all great. The other thing is water purification tablets. Now that's designed for like clean water, like stream water that might have some bacteria and things like that in there. So those are really good. Iodine tablets, things like that. Really lightweight. You can stick them in a little bag in this, a little baggie inside your bag and forget about them until you need them. But some of us live in drier areas. Some of the guys, I'm thinking about the guys in California, Arizona, New Mexico.
Right.
There, it's really important to actually have the water, because you might not be able to find, water that you can clean and use. You're going to have to bring your own water. For guys like that, for people out in those kinds of climates, I'd recommend having a case of water in the trunk of your car. Just have it there so that, you can pack as many in your bag. If you have to abandon your car, you can pack as many in your bag as you want. Obviously, when it comes to bags like this, you have to think about the weight. You don't want to be carrying, they recommend that have a gallon of water per day. That's 3 gallons of water for a 72-hour bag. And that's about 25 pounds right there, right off the bat, just in water.
Right.
So you want to be able to have access to as much water as you're going to need, but you might not necessarily want to have it all in your bag. Now, a bottle of water technically can be out of date, but really it's not going to be out of date unless you leave that bottle in your bag for such a long time. The plastic degrades and the water drains out of the plastic bottle. It's not going to go bad. So you can pack your bag with bottles of water and, like one of those, what they say, set and forget. You can stick the bottles of water in there and forget about it until you need it. That's not something you have to restock every 6 months and change out or whatever. But you want to have, when you're buying the bottles, you want to at least buy bottles that have some sort of durability to them. I know there are some water bottles that
are
the whole
so
bottle
thin,
will twist
right.
when you try and twist the cap off.
Right. Right.
You want something that's going to hold up a little bit. You don't want to, try and be wringing out a pair of socks that were in your bag so you can get some water because your bottle broke open, while you're walking. So that's something to think about. The other thing that's tricky is food.
Well, let me back with water. So, water bottles are great, and also the thing is, like I know I have a my get home bag. I have a bag with a bladder in it to fill with water. Now, I don't keep that bladder full of water because I worry about it leaking. 2, I worry about it. But what you can do is have a separate gallon of water. Again, this kind of depends on your climate and environment and, whatever. Obviously, if all your water bottles are going to freeze, you need to take that into account, where you live or whatever. you need to be aware of what's in your bag. And I think that's one of the things, partly why I wanted to come back to this, was people lose sight of what's in their bag. Who knows if it all, it's tucked under a seat or something and those bags froze and the water bottles burst and they leaked all over and ruined everything in there. You need to kind of go back and check on your gear every now and again. But the other thing with water is they sell these like Katadyn and some other companies have the little hand pumps where you can filter the water. And that way you can refill several water bottles, which will allow you to carry a lot less. Again, unless you're in a climate, in a desert climate where you're not going to be able to, get more water and replace it. But, in those places, you do want several gallons. And the thing is, you can decide based on the day, your situation, how far away you are from help, how much water you're going to leave in your car and not bother to carry because it's too much. Or how, you can fill your supplies up to the max, So that's something to be aware of, based on your environment. You can change what you actually take. My get home bag is a little heavier than I would like to carry, but I like to think that I would pick and choose and kind of restock it before I left my vehicle. I would say, all right, these are the things that are going to be relevant to me today in this situation, rather than that way I can determine my fate instead of not having something I might need. So just something to keep in mind. But so besides water, what next area would you?
Yeah, when it comes to food, that can be a tricky one because some of the things will expire. So you have to be conscientious of what you're picking to put in there. Some of the good things that hold up for a long time are the, like a dried trail mix. Now, you can go to the store and buy trail mix that like looks good. It's got like M&Ms and chocolate and shit in there. But that's not what you want. You want something that's going to hold up long term, something that's really dehydrated. Some of those things with dehydrated fruits and stuff, they can last a while. Nobody likes raisins, but, it's they're good for you, and they're good little bit of sugar to have with your trail mix.
Right.
But you want something that's gonna hold up. You want something that's really dried out. You don't want something that's gonna be rotten or disgusting when you go to open it up. Another good thing is those dried granola bars, not the ones that taste good, the ones that are more like cardboardy and shit like that. Dry is the focus on those two things.
Right.
You want it dried, and you want so it's not going to go bad.
Right. What I did was I went to like Gander and bought. They have these, and I'm sure they're on Amazon because everything's on Amazon, right? They have these like 24-hour food bricks where it's a dehydrated kind of, but it weighs almost nothing, and it's just. It takes up so little space in the bag. No, I don't have that as my only food. It's just that it ends up being like 2,500 calories or something. And it's nice to have the simple, gonna last forever calories, but then, like you said, then having some kind of, granola bars, things like that, energy bars, something that can handle the heat, because odds are you're probably leaving it in your car all year long. And it's going to have those days where, you see the little puppies left in the car and whatever, and it gets hot in there. It does get hot in your car, even in some of the, the cooler climates, the more mild climates at times. You want something that can survive that. But again, like the solid brick of food that's, got like the 25-year shelf life. Yeah, you don't need to worry about that. That's going to be there and be good for forever. The other stuff you might want to replace every 6 months or once a year. You might want to go in and check on it. The reason I like the longer 24-hour in addition is that then I don't need to worry. Like I know that something's going to be good because time gets away from all of us. And that's, that's why I wanted to talk about this stuff today. Like I was, talking to Kevin last week and I was like, look, I think we should revisit a lot of the basics just because you forget about it. You're like, oh, I made the bug out bag. It's good. But now all those granola bars, you're going to open it up and it's going to be powder and gross and, whatever, or something got in it. That chipmunk that's been living under the hood of your truck maybe found his way into your get home bag, So
that's
something to think about.
Yeah. Now, speaking of chipmunks, another good thing for the bug out bag is they have the individual servings of like peanut butter and things like that, cashew butter, things like that. That has a lot of calories in it, even though it's a small, simple thing that you can stick in your bag. They have those small packets of tuna and, canned tuna, canned chicken, that sort of stuff. What do they call it? Potted meat, Yeah. That sort of stuff will hold up for a long time. And it's great to throw it in there. Nobody wants to eat just a can of tuna without anything in it, But I mean, listen, I'm disgusting.
But you mix that with some leaves. Come on.
You're good. I mean, don't be scared to be that Eat a can of tuna fish plain. That's fine. You're not gonna. You're not gonna die.
Those mustard sardines that are in the back of the cabinet. Today is your day.
That's the day.
One day you're in the grocery store and you're like, yeah, maybe one day. I don't know what goes through somebody's head I don't know. I used to occasionally have the like Louisiana hot sauce sardines. And I think what goes through my head is like, well, if I ate that, I probably wouldn't want to eat anything else for another 6 or 7 hours. It's kind of like a diet food,
Right.
Because you're like, yeah, you eat that, and then you're just kind of like, I don't really need anything else now.
How hungry am I?
Exactly. Yeah. That's how it goes sometimes. But, so think about the food that you put in there and, how it's going to last and keep. But
Right. Now, we've touched on this already a couple of times, talking about the different types of climates you're going to be in. If you're up north, you might have summer, you might have winter. If you're down south, it might be, real rainy. It might be real dry. You might be someplace where it's, 90 degrees and sun shining nonstop. So let's talk about food. Let's talk about clothing. It's going to really depend on your environment. What I keep in mind is specifically socks, gloves, and a waterproof jacket. Now, what I do with mine is I take a gallon Ziploc bag, and I have a couple of sets where I have one pair of socks, one pair of underwear, and a t-shirt, and I put them all in the Ziploc bag. And then that's it, man. That's like a full change. I can wear my pants from yesterday, but I've got a full change of clothes there. If I get soaking wet, or if it's really cold, I can double up on those things. But swap them out. Nobody wants to have wet feet. That's not good, not a good situation to be in. And if you can swap out your socks, you're
and
that's the thing right there.
Like if your job or even your lifestyle has you wearing like dress shoes most of the time, or, especially I know women have some less functional shoes that they end up wearing, to fit into the societal norms, like you might have your high heels or, whatever kind of dressier work shoes. And honestly, the shoes that I'm wearing with a suit are not something that I'd want to have to walk 10 miles in. So if that's your norm, having a pair of sneakers in there or some kind of hiking boots would be a great idea. Or also if you're in a winter climate, maybe the sneakers might not even be right. Maybe you need the pair of boots or something like that. Imagine if you're in dress shoes, you go to the Christmas Eve church service and it's snowy and cold out and you're rocking the suit and the dress shoes. You're not a happy guy if something breaks down in the field on the way home and you got to walk 5 miles, up the road in the snowy, icy condition. That's going to be a shitty time. You're going to, in your mind, you're saying, damn, it couldn't have been worse, Right. So having the extra pair of shoes, I mean, honestly, even having sneakers over dress shoes at that point is going to be a big win. So just
right.
be aware and don't throw the pair that are like so uncomfortable that you stopped wearing them, or they didn't really fit right. So hey, those will be good to leave in the car. That's not really the answer. You want something like, I know that I end up with shoes that they might still be comfortable, but they haven't they don't look as nice anymore, and they're kind of ugly, and you don't want to wear them into town. Those
Yeah,
might be
that's
all
a great
right.
pair for the bag.
Those
Yeah.
would be great for that, but don't go with oh, well, these are completely shot and they hurt my feet when I wear them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not gonna help anybody.
Right. Now, one other thing, well, we're touching on the cold weather. I'd like to, just mention that a good pair of gloves, not easy to find, but worthwhile. Good pair of gloves and a wool hat are, lifesavers when it comes to cold weather.
I know.
But
well, I was going to say,
thing
when
I'm
I
throw
met
in here, go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying, when I met my wife, she had two younger girls, and she always used to keep a comforter in the back of her car, because she's like, you never know,
Mm-hmm.
when the car is going to break down and we're going to be stuck and all, shivering together and something like that. No, you probably wouldn't want to, like, hey, oh, now I'm walking home, I'm going to carry this extra giant comforter. But
Right.
having something to get warm, if you live in that climate in the colder months, not really a bad idea, So just,
Right. Yeah. Now, one thing I'm going to throw in here with clothes is sunscreen. You can always take clothes off if it's too hot. But if you're out in the sun for a couple hours, especially if you're out, during the dead of summer, you're gonna roast yourself if you're not careful.
Yeah.
So it's a great thing to have for protection, especially if you live in a sunnier area, a drier area, someplace where it's not cloudy most of the time. It's a good thing to have in there. Just
Right.
a little thing of sunscreen to keep yourself from
Right.
turning beet red, and it's a good way to add on to heat stroke. Is that sun exposure.
Right. What I did is I actually found, because I live in such a hot climate, I found like their deodorant stick, like sunblock.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't have to worry about it in the bag. That's what I'm kind of getting at. Like, one, I don't like the aerosol containers, just with the heat.
Right.
And, and it just, I don't have to worry about something spilling or leaking. Although I guess it's possible that they could melt in the heat if I had my bag sitting on the dashboard or something. Mm-hmm. But something to keep in mind there. Another thing you want to have in there is first aid. Now, there's two ways you can go on this. And that's one, I think I bought like a $15 basic first aid kit that I bought one and then ended up really liking it. And then I bought one for every vehicle I own that is your basic day-to-day first aid. I'm talking about like your triple antibiotic, your Band-Aids, your, all the little nonsense stuff, your cleaned like wound dressing kind of things. But this fits in a tiny bag that I actually ended up throwing in with the spare tire. Like I put it in there, so it's just there. If you have one of these cars with 100 pockets every other place, one of my trucks, it's in my truck, it's there, it's in one of these pockets or compartments. But, with the car where I have tight space and limited what I can have in there, I just threw it in with the tire thing. So it's always there, because a little cut isn't a big deal, but it is when you can't put something on it. And just that comes up. That and the bottled water ends up coming into play so often, especially when you have younger kids. Having, Band-Aids, having the water, we went on a hike, and it turns out I thought it was a great idea to go on a 4-mile hike, but I didn't drink any water since yesterday. All of a sudden your kids are like dying of thirst and, I'm going to faint. Right. I can't go on. And that's happened to me so many times that let me just tell you, not where I've been in that position. I mean, my kids have, dropped that on me, and I'm like, all right, stop. We'll just deal with it. So
Mhm.
things like that. So that first aid kit for your little go-to. Now, also, I keep it actually strapped to the outside of my get home bag, but I have a trauma bag. Now, that's a little
Mhm.
different because I have some training and whatever. But if you know how to go in and really treat somebody with a trauma wound, we're talking about tourniquets and quick clot and this kind of stuff, Israeli bandages. Um, Having a trauma bag accessible, you never know when you're going to come up on the car crash or whatever. But it's also great something to have for your get home bag, you know, all the
Mhm.
time anyway to, get you where you need to go. You never know what life's going to bring at you. You really, I have a trauma bag in my car, by my barn, each of the places where it might come up because stopping bleeding can be a big game changer, for people.
Right.
So definitely
Absolutely.
don't skip on the first aid and realize that a trauma bag is not a regular first aid kit. If you have a cut and need that triple antibiotic and a band-aid, the trauma bag probably isn't where you're going on that.
Mhm.
The trauma bag is
Right.
immediate stopping and just something to be aware of.
Mhm. All right. Let's talk real quick about temporary shelters. Um, Typically, if you're stranded with your vehicle, you're not going to need a temporary shelter situation. But if you're leaving your car and you've got a long ways to go, it the amount of weight and space a 10 foot by 10 foot tarp takes up is almost
Yes.
zero. You know, it's
Right.
it's it's hardly even worth thinking about it. Just pick
Uh,
one up at the hardware store and stick it in your bag and forget about it until you need it because you might need it and it's great to have when you do.
Especially
Um,
for a short-term shelter, it doesn't need to be
right.
that durable
Hmm.
and sturdy. Something that's going to
Right.
last you a week. You can have some really small, lightweight gear. And again, it's all relative to how much money you want to spend, to how small and how lightweight and how quality you can get. I mean,
Right.
honestly, if
You
you
can
buy a
definitely.
couple of dollar tarps, you can do it because they make the
Mhm.
little small, but realize they're small. Kind of
Right.
find the maybe find the $3 bigger option. I don't know.
Yeah. And if I'm not gonna give you a hard time if you go to Walmart and get the $30 2-man tent and stick it in there either. There's nothing wrong
Right.
with that. Having something that you can pop up real quick that you can get inside if if it's you find yourself outside in a downpour or at least something that's looking like it's gonna be a downpour. Um,
But again,
Having some
it's nice to
paracord
have.
and some tarps though is a big help.
Right. And it's nice to have options. That's the thing. Like I said, you don't have to hike home with a bag with the kitchen sink in there. But it's nice to be
Hmm.
able to be like, hey, look, it's going to pour for the next day and we're going to be hiking for 2 days. Let's take the rain gear. Let's take the tent.
Hmm.
These are the things that maybe they're too big for, but they might be the key thing that's going to help you. Again, if
Right.
everybody's abandoning their vehicle, you might be able to stop in a car all the way home and find shelter. Oh, here's another
Hmm.
abandoned car on the side of the road. Let's camp out here. I know a
Right.
lot of people like to go to 18 wheeler cabs and are like, hey, but you look for the right thing.
Yeah. All right. How
Kevin's
about
more
how
of a
about
minivan
hygiene?
guy. Hygiene.
Yeah. I've never been a
So
minivan guy.
what it comes down to
Uh,
is toilet paper, is what you're telling me.
Toilet paper, you want to wipe your ass. Everybody can wipe their ass with a leaf. Everybody's done that. Nobody likes to do that. Toilet paper is
Nobody likes
perfectly
to do
designed
that.
for your butthole. Stick with the toilet paper. Doesn't take up much space. You don't have to take a full roll, doesn't take up much space. But keeping your asshole clean, big deal.
It makes a
But
way
one of the
more
other things.
comfortable hike when your bunghole is clean.
That's right. That's right. Some of the things I have in there is a small bar of soap, some hand sanitizer, toothbrush, and rubbing alcohol. Now, maybe you guys don't mind going a couple of days without brushing your teeth. Maybe it's not a big deal for you. Me personally, grosses me the fuck out when I wake up in the morning, my mouth's all, all funky tasting and smelling nasty. First thing I do is brush, and it doesn't hurt to brush your teeth after lunch too. You know what I mean?
What? Two times?
Take care of
wait,
your
you're
teeth.
Brushing them at night too?
3 times.
That's right. A day? Ooh. I used to hear that when I was a kid, but I thought that was like a myth that parents tell their kids to. I kind of go with once every 3 weeks, whether or not. Once every 3 weeks, whether I need it or not,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. You got anything else for hygiene stuff? Some basic hygiene things you like to keep in your
like I said, I like the first aid kit. I like in my trauma bag, I have a pair of nitrile gloves. Honestly, a bar of soap would not be a bad idea to throw in there. They last forever. Irish Spring, if you smell like a fresh Irish morning, you're down way more likely to get apocalypse girls on your hike home. I mean, I know that's a thing. Right. They like the guy that smells fresh. And you're like, hey, I have a bar of soap. Right there, that's like the lure that, you might be able to, win the ladies over. So I'm just saying, something to think about. To each his own, right?
Yeah. Now, all right. Up next, I've got my favorite part, and yours, lights and fire. Now,
fire.
Anybody worth their salt when it comes to stocking a 72-hour bag knows about flashlights and getting the flashlights together. So you want something with a high, what do they call it? Candle.
Candle power. It's a lot of lumens. Lumens are what excite people.
There you go.
And then, you always see the 1,000 candle watt power floodlights and whatever, right?
Right. So I go with the.
Go ahead.
I go with a headlamp and a flashlight. I actually have 2 headlamps and a flashlight. Now, this is something you want to keep towards the top of your bag because you're going to have to, keep track of the battery power in those. With being turned off in your bag, those batteries are going to last a long time. But sometimes your bag gets bumped around and the light actually turns on and just drains those batteries right down. By the time you need it, there's nothing left in there.
I've had the occasional, I have some scopes that have batteries. If they go through extreme temperature changes, like things might in your car, or are exposed to different elements, the batteries can kind of explode, where they leak and get all that corrosion and they just become worthless. So checking them at least once a year, I would actually replace the batteries on something like that. But again, that's the thing. Let's go back and revisit your bag. Just empty it out. Hey, let's check the batteries. Let's swap out the water bottles with some other ones I have. Let's freshen up those granola bars and throw in new ones. Going through and doing these basic checks. But like you said, I have these really cool little lights that just clip onto the zippers of my bags that are the little press lights where you just push the button and it lights up. I have small LED lights like that I think you can buy 10 for $4 on Amazon or something. But those I have on the outside of my bag. And I just ended up, I bought the 10 or whatever, and every bag for every vehicle, I just threw one, here and there. So again, that helps you find your gear. And it also makes it that you're not using the big bright light that, hey, look at me. I'm, way over here I have supplies, you don't want to be that guy. So then inside, again, an outside pocket is usually a great place, but I go to the headlamp as kind of my first choice. It really can be effective. Almost all of them are now where you can switch between red light and white light. I know being in the Navy, having the red light option was a big thing. It does not draw as much attention. You really can be a lot more low profile, than going through the woods with the big white, 1,000 lumen flashlight. If you have a red, headlamp, not so bad. You're able to get away with a lot more. So that's something that really will help out. And then I do have something that's brighter and more substantial. Those are kind of nice, with the more combat lights kind of thing. Those are nice where, you can shine it in somebody's eyes and kind of thing and be like, hey, what's going on? Where you kind of control the situation instead of them. It turns the tables a little bit. I know Kevin probably has some night vision in his get home bag because, who doesn't? But, that might be something cool you want to throw in there. But yeah, no. And then I know you said next is fire. Everybody's got, your couple lighters in the bag. I know you'd mentioned in the last episode that, throwing a lighter here and there every time you go to the grocery store, throwing that into the bag is not going to hurt anything. So, that might be something you guys want to do. I do have, I think, some waterproof matches in a can, but the lighter kind of does cover that. Obviously, knowing how to start fires other ways, having some flint and steel kind of thing happening. Again, if you could throw a lighter and flint and steel, whatever. I don't know. What else you got on fire? Is that pretty much where you're going to go with that, or some cotton with Vaseline?
There is, the chance that your bag is going to be completely drenched, and a completely drenched lighter is going to not light until it dries out entirely, which could be a couple hours. So, like you mentioned, having some flint and steel or having some waterproof matches in there, that'll help. That'll cover that eventuality, right? Cover.
Right.
What do they? What you want a redundancy for everything you have.
But the lighter is the minimum,
as much as you can, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, you can get a thing of 5 Bic lighters for $6 and have it in different. I'd try and have one in all the different pouches in my bag, so I'm not searching for it. Just like the headlamp, you want it on the outside of your bag, somewhere easily accessible. Because when you're looking for shit, first thing you want is a flashlight to see what you're looking for.
Right.
So that really covers the fire starting stuff, and the lights. Did you have anything else on either of those?
Not on that topic. The next thing, I always keep a nice folding knife. Always seems like a great go-to. I have like an old school buck, it's got serrated and sharp. It really kind of is my go-to, knife for something small and just useful, like as a camping knife, I know if I'm going out on an adventure in the woods, I honestly have this Gerber hunting knife that has like a little fillet knife and then kind of a skinner that it's kind of nice as a fighting knife. It just all around that I like, but a little folding knife in there that's, a decent size is definitely a great go-to, something to think about.
Yeah, along with that folding knife, I'd say, there's a couple other little tools that you might want to throw in there, like a multi-tool. I know you carry one of those most of the time, don't you?
Yes.
One of those multi-tools can come in handy, especially with all the little tools that can come with it. The Phillips and flathead screwdriver, little pliers, the knife, there's a couple of things in there that can come in handy when you're trying to get something together or take something apart. And having one of those, throwing it in the bag is going to be a big help. If you need it, you're going to realize how useful it is when you're able to pull it out.
Right.
Another thing with the multi-tool, along with the multi-tool and the knife, is a little bit of paracord. It doesn't take up much space. You can have it. It's great for building a shelter, or it's got 1,000,001 uses. And like I said, it doesn't take up much space and it doesn't weigh much, and you can get a good bit of paracord for small amount of money.
Yeah.
Other things I like to keep in my bag, tool wise, I like to keep like a black Sharpie, so I can mark things as I'm going. I'd like to have a little toolkit, that multi-tool is great, covers a lot of bases, but you also have to think about your environment, what you're going to be doing. Generally speaking, I carry a toolbox in my vehicle just in case I'm someplace and I need to do some work on something, or I need to do some work on my vehicle itself.
Yeah. Almost all my vehicles I usually have, and that's, I think we can expand for a second on your vehicle too. I always keep just a flat and a Phillips screwdriver, and at a minimum, like some of my lesser prepared vehicles, I have a flat, a Phillip, and a small crescent wrench.
Mm-hmm.
And, because just that, and every one of my vehicles has a Leatherman multi-tool. And those are the basics in everything. And then, like a truck or something, my trucks, you'll find a socket set and some other stuff. But that's just because I'm kind of always somewhere I want to do a job. That's more my lifestyle and things I'm doing where I like to be prepared. But minimum screwdriver, both screwdrivers and a crescent wrench really will help get you where you need to be.
Right.
So that's something you need to think about. I was going to say jumper cables. All your vehicles need a decent set of heavy gauge jumper cables. This isn't your get home bag, but I figure if we're covering the vehicle and being out, I've gotten to just as an old man, kind of, I know what things come up in my life, and I've gotten to the ridiculous level of preparedness. Right. And so with that, like it gets beyond. Like now I'm like, all right, well, I like to have a trailer at home in case one of my cars break down. I can go out and tow that car home. That's the ridiculous level of preparedness that you get to. And now I'm like, oh, well, now that I got the trailer, I need a winch on the trailer because it'd be a lot easier if I could just pull it up. And obviously, if I need a winch, that means I need to run some heavy gauge wire from my battery to the back of my truck so I can just plug the winch in and not have to worry about, winch power and not just work off the trailer battery. And it just kind of escalates. It kind of, the level of preparedness can get away from you. But, hey, at least I'm ready, right?
Right. One last thing that I think that gets overlooked a lot in the get home bags is basic navigation. A local map and a compass will go a long ways, because maybe the fastest way to drive someplace is not necessarily the fastest way to walk someplace.
Fastest way to walk, right. Now, a lot of them, you can buy the trail, like for the hunters. I know we have I know when I was in New York, I had an Eastern New York like trail and hunting map, trail and stream map, maybe it said. And it was like $20. And I think I had bought it at like Gander or one of those, they carry for the local fishermen and that kind of, or hunters. And that had all kinds of great stuff. In my bag right now, I haven't actually found a local map where I am like that. But I have a Rand McNally Atlas in my bag that covers the United States, and it's the big book. Now, again, if I find myself in a situation where I'm going to be hiking across half the state and whatever, I'm probably going to rip out those pages and take them with me. I'm not carrying that whole heavy, stupid atlas, but wherever I am, I'm going to have the right thing, or the ones that are going to be in my journey, where I'm going. That's a great idea. The GPS, it's awesome if you got the extra money to throw it in there. Most of us do have that kind of thing on our phone anymore, right? So, again, can you buy better quality navigation equipment that will work if cell towers don't work? Yes. Again, that's your budget, though. You decide, what level of preparedness, your dollars can afford you. But definitely have a compass, definitely have a map. Usually have a pretty good understanding when I go somewhere. I plan out a route. I come up with a plan of, hey, this is the best way. Again, do I know every back road and trail if, the highway wasn't working? Of course not. I'm not, at that level. But, because, again, certain things can only consume you. You need to prepare your life to deal with situations as they come up. But going through, spending the time, pull your bag out, go through it, look at the inventory. One, familiarize yourself with where everything is in it so you can get to things quickly. And just knowing what's in there makes a big difference. I'd say it was probably like month and a half, 2 months ago. I pulled out the bag and went through, everything. One, check on the inventory, check on the freshness of everything. And two, hey, I didn't even realize I had this in there. That's cool. This is another option I have available to me, So
Right.
something to think about that when you get familiar and go with it. So nothing wrong with going back. And the upside, I also like to think that everybody has, it would be nice if you had some kind of everyday carry weapon that you kept in your car. That's a great asset to a get home bag. It makes a big difference in you being able to get home in a really bad situation. So just another thing to be aware of. Again, maybe if I don't have that available to me, I carry a better knife. I know my kids who don't have firearms with them everywhere they go, they carry pepper spray and that kind of thing. Even in communist states like New York, I know if I went to the gun store, I could get pepper spray. I just had to fill out a paper that basically said I bought pepper spray, that kind of thing. You just got to take some steps. But again, use what's available to you.
Right.
If you, like I said, it's not, if you're in New York City and you really have a damn near impossible time to get a firearm, then maybe you need, to think of something else, maybe the knife that's legal, because
Right.
you might say, well, in New York, I can't have double-edged knives and I can't have this and no butterfly knife because that's the most effective fighting weapon
Right.
I've ever seen,
Right.
at least according to every 80s movie, right?
Right.
So,
exactly.
with
Butterfly
that,
knives and nunchucks and
right,
you're done.
the nunchucks, right, and I think nunchucks now are legal in New York.
They are.
They
finally,
said, we haven't had that many nunchuck attacks. Maybe we just say, it's not really that big of a problem.
Yeah. The truth is, the reason it was originally outlawed in New York was because of kung fu movies. Movies, not things happening, but people saw movies and were like, holy shit.
Oh, shit.
Bruce Lee fucked up
That's
like
a
10
real
dudes
threat
with
out there.
nunchucks.
Yeah, that's a real threat out there. He's
Right.
knocking the pistols right out of people's hands. So, that's something you need to worry about. But, all right, that's what I got. I mean, just go through your stuff. It's time to inventory. It's time to, make sure everything is as it should be. Because too often things get away from us. We live a lifestyle of preparedness. We have all these things going on. And then you find where you made a stupid mistake. I talk about, when my well shuts off, how much water did I really have set aside to, deal with that or whatever.
Mhm.
Oh, my car broke down and I didn't have the jumper cables because I pulled it out to work on that other car and I didn't, get them back. I pulled out the tire iron for something else and I didn't put it back. Go through your stuff every once in a while and get familiar with what's there, where it is, what condition it's in. And, make sure you're moving in the right direction. So with that, you have ideas, concerns, things that are, basic preps or even other ideas you think we should be talking about, shoot us an email at preppingbadass@gmail.com. You enjoyed the show and enjoy, checking us out. You can support us by subscribing at patreon.com/preppingbadass. Otherwise, maybe hang out with us on the Facebook group. There's a Facebook page also. Just search Prepping Badass. And with that, stay safe, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
The Survival and Basic Badass podcast is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network.
Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With FishingBooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. FishingBooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to FishingBooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.